Imagine you're stepping into the dense, mist-shrouded cloud forests of the Andes. Up there, high in the mountains, lives a creature that just embodies mystery. We're talking about the largest predator in its South American domain, a supreme climber, and an animal whose shyness, well, it made its most crucial behaviors the stuff of local legend for centuries. This is truly the ghost of the high mountains.
And that ghost is, I mean, it's one of the most compelling biological subjects we could possibly deep dive into. We are talking about the spectacled bear. Some people call it the Andean bear or, unscientifically, Trimarctos ornatus.
The name is perfect, isn't it? Spectacled bear.
It's perfectly descriptive. They have these unique creamy or white markings that ring their eyes, which creates the appearance of spectacles. What's really remarkable, though, is that these markings are so distinct, they're like natural fingerprints. Scientists can actually use them to identify individual bears without any intrusive tagging.
So today we are doing a deep dive into the stack of sources you provided. We're going to pull back the curtain on this spectacular but highly vulnerable species. Our mission is to analyze its surprising and massive evolutionary lineage, unpack the incredible adaptations that allow it to, earn a living in one of the world's most variable environments.
And most importantly,
Yes, and most importantly, confront that challenging history of documenting its behavior where it overlaps with human communities.
it's a story of ultimate survival, really, because the spectacled bear is, well, it's essentially the last one standing. It's the only member of a colossal evolutionary branch, carrying the genetic history of some truly giant predecessors.
And that's exactly where we have to start, because the ancestry is the perfect hook. When you look at this relatively mid-sized bear, you would never, ever guess that it's the direct descendant of some of the most fearsome North American carnivores of the Ice Age.
That's the central paradox. The spectacled bear is the only living member of the short-faced bear family, a lineage that once dominated vast areas. If you want a sense of their colossal relatives, you really have to look at the fossils.
We aren't just talking about slightly bigger bears, are we?
Oh, not even close, far from it. We're talking about the giant short-faced bear. Its remains have been unearthed in places like California's La Brea tar pits. These were massive, hyper-carnivorous beasts, just built for power.
Right.
Then you had the Florida cave bear, which emerged around 250,000 years ago. All those gigantic cousins, they all died out as the climate changed and their large prey vanished. The spectacled bear is the sole surviving evolutionary testament to that entire line.
What's so fascinating is how it navigated that survival crisis. It went from being, like you said, a giant killer to one of the world's smallest bears, relatively speaking. It's the largest mammal predator in South America, yes, but it averages around, 130 kilograms?
Which, if you look globally, is tiny. A Kodiak bear, just for scale, can easily weigh up to 600 kilograms. So the short-faced bear lineage, it had to shrink and adapt dramatically to the resources available in the tropics.
And yet, they seem to retain one specific feature that sort of hints at that giant, powerful ancestry, that disproportionately large head.
Precisely. Their heads are huge relative to their body size. Only the giant panda can really compete on that front. And this isn't just some quirky physical trait. It's an adaptation that repurposes the powerful musculature and jaw structure that was needed by their carnivorous ancestors.
So instead of crushing bone,
Exactly. Instead of crushing bone, they use that strength to chew through incredibly tough, fibrous plant material. And that is absolutely key to their modern diet.
so that big head is actually a crucial piece of evolutionary equipment. It allowed them to survive by shifting their diet. That's a powerful insight.
Absolutely. The shift to omnivory and a much more flexible diet, that's what saved the species. And of course, their importance isn't just biological, it's woven deep into the human culture of the Andes.
Right. In the indigenous Quechua language, the bear is known as ukumari. What spiritual role does that name imply?
The Ukumari serves a really profound role. It's often depicted as a mediator between the world of the living and the world of the dead. It suggests a spiritual reverence for this creature that has shared their mountains for millennia.
And on a lighter note, Paddington bear?
And on a lighter cultural note for our listeners, yes, it's worth a quick mention that the spectacled bear from, quote, darkest Peru is also the inspiration behind Paddington bear.
Okay, let's look at their current lifestyle, because this is where the spectacled bear truly deviates from that, typical image of a large North American bear. They are fully terrestrial, and they're excellent swimmers, but our sources classify them as one of the most arboreal bear species in the entire world. They really live vertically.
They are simply masters of the canopy. It's a place most other bears only visit briefly, if at all. They spend so much time in trees that they exhibit these very specific behaviors to facilitate that lifestyle. They actively build leafy platforms, essentially furniture high up in the branches.
And these aren't just temporary spots to rest, are they? Like a quick nap.
No, no. They build these platforms by breaking and weaving branches together, and they use them for both feeding and sleeping. Sometimes they'll even return to the same platform over and over again. It's an effective way to avoid terrestrial predators and, of course, access the specific fruits and vegetation they need.
So the trees aren't just a home, they're communication hubs.
They are. The spectacled bear communicates using the tree trunks and leaves almost like a bulletin board. They'll leave distinct claw marks on the trunks, and they mark leaves and branches with urine and scent. It's all about signaling territory or just letting other bears know they've passed through. It's a complex, high-altitude social network that is, largely invisible to us down on the ground.
And it's that high level of adaptability that really explains why they can survive across such a massive and varied geographical range.
Their habitat versatility is just astonishing. They're found across the entire Andean mountain range, traversing an incredible gradient of ecosystems. This includes the moist rainforests we picture, but also the high-altitude, treeless grasslands known as paramos.
A really harsh environment.
A truly harsh environment that most large animals just can't tolerate. And they're even found in coastal scrub deserts.
Now, here's a defining characteristic, especially when we compare them to their northern cousins. The spectacled bear is not a hibernator. They're in the no-sleep club, active year-round.
They are active 365 days a year. And this functional difference is directly tied to their tropical environment. Unlike bears in temperate zones who have to hibernate because food resources completely disappear in winter, the spectacled bear enjoys a climate where food is consistently available.
Albeit sometimes sparsely.
Right, sometimes sparsely, but it's always there. So there's no metabolic imperative to gorge, store fat, and then shut down for months. They have to constantly forage and move.
And when they are constantly foraging, they are sampling from a massive buffet.
They are true omnivores, and their diet diversity is immense. I mean, they're known to eat over 300 different kinds of plants, plus more than 20 kinds of insects and small animals. They use that evolutionary flexibility we talked about earlier to simply take advantage of whatever resource is available in their varied habitat.
Our sources point out one highly specialized snack, though. They're the only bears known to eat bromeliads.
Yes, and this is a perfect example of their adaptation. Bromeliads are tough, fibrous plants. They require significant jaw strength to process. But they're a crucial resource because a single bromeliad can store up to a liter of water. This provides a vital source of hydration in drier regions or during periods of, scarce rainfall.
And while they do rely so heavily on plant matter, they are opportunistic. They're not strictly vegetarians, which kind of reminds us of their ancient carnivorous roots.
Exactly. They will readily take small vertebrates like mice, rabbits, and birds. And crucially, they have also been documented preying on larger animals like sloth and deer when the opportunity arises. It demonstrates that while their primary diet has changed, they definitely retain the capabilities of a formidable predator.
But ecologically, their most critical role, that has to be being the super spreader of the Andes.
This cannot be overstated because they consume such vast quantities of fruit and travel over such large distances, often crossing different habitats like the paramos. They are instrumental in spreading seeds. They are essentially responsible for the propagation and the genetic flow of the forests across the entire mountain range.
So if you remove the spectacled bear,
you fundamentally compromise the long-term health and distribution of the Andean forests. They are a definitive keystone species.
and this crucial ecological role, well, it brings us directly to the core challenge facing the species, the human-bear conflict. For centuries, local livestock farmers have attributed losses of goats, calves, chickens to the spectacled bear. But this behavior, the predation of domestic animals, was largely dismissed as regional folklore by the scientific community for a long time.
It was a very frustrating situation for the local communities. They knew what they were seeing, but the elusiveness of the bear meant that there was no definitive scientific proof. The spectacled bear lives in incredibly dense cloud forests and tends to be solitary and nocturnal, which makes direct observation extraordinarily difficult for outside researchers.
So local knowledge was just dismissed until an irrefutable observation could be made. And that moment finally came in the late 1990s.
It did. And what's fascinating about the documentation process is how a single, verifiable event could change the entire conservation paradigm. The first direct observation confirming this predatory behavior on livestock. Specifically, an attack on cattle and the bear subsequently feeding on the carcass was made in 1997 by a park warden in Chingaza National Park, Colombia.
Okay, so why did that one observation carry so much weight after centuries of local reports? Was it the professionalism of the observer or just having irrefutable visual proof?
It was a combination of factors, but the confirmed direct visual evidence by an officially recognized observer. That was the key. It forced the scientific community to finally acknowledge the reality of the conflict. Confirmed livestock predation is the root cause of the illegal killing of these bears by farmers just seeking to protect their livelihood. The conflict shifts from a theoretical threat to a tragic economic reality.
And this pressure clearly impacts the bear's conservation status. So what's their current global standing?
The species has been listed as vulnerable by the IUCN, that's the International Union for Conservation of Nature, since 1973. Current estimates put the total population at around 20,000 bears scattered across the range from Venezuela to Bolivia. Peru is the crucial anchor, though. It's home to about 5,700 individuals, which solidifies its status as the spectacled bear capital.
Despite the confirmation that they are, opportunistic predators, it's essential we reassure our listeners about their general temperament. They aren't known for human aggression.
Oh, far from it. They are extremely shy and generally avoid humans entirely. The sources confirm that aggression is almost exclusively triggered only when they feel threatened, if they're hurt, or, most critically, when they are actively protecting their cubs.
And those cubs require intense protection. They're born completely defenseless. They only start leaving the safety of the den after 3 or 4 months. That's a long period of vulnerability.
It is, and it just emphasizes how fragile the early stages of life are for this species, and why the mother's need to find consistent food while defending them is so critical.
So if we synthesize everything we've looked at, we have an animal of just profound complexity. The spectacled bear is a fruit-eating, tree-climbing specialist, the Yukumari, but it's carrying the weighty legacy of giant carnivores in its genes. It's an animal constantly foraging to survive in really challenging environments, which leads to this modern, unavoidable conflict at the edges of human civilization.
It is the last living connection to a major evolutionary branch of the short-faced bear family, and its role in maintaining the Andean ecosystem as a seed disperser is, well, it's absolutely crucial. Without the spectacled bear, the mountains lose a fundamental piece of their biodiversity and their regenerative capability.
So it's clear that their necessity to access any available food source,
Mhm.
that's non-negotiable for their survival.
Which raises an important question for you to consider. Since the confirmation of livestock predation back in 1997 fundamentally changed the human perception of this shy species, what does their desperate necessity to access any available food source, whether it's wild or domestic, truly tell us about the severity of the pressures being placed on their shrinking natural habitats? And how can we design conservation efforts that effectively balance the essential needs of local communities against the survival of this unique, vulnerable predator? Something for you to mull over as you think about how human development impacts the world's keystone species.